Hello everybody. Now this is a very special video because I just sent an email off to Illinois and the man's name is Iwrocker. Now this is Iwrocker. Let's just go back and have a look. You like the way how I do this? There he is there. You go, right? Okay, Iwrocker. Right. Now I've got something here for you. I wrote you an email and I said to you, I've been to everywhere. Right. I'm what they call an Aussie that travelled around the east coast of Australia in a 10-tonne, 12.5 metre long bus decked out in a house. Now what I did, I had a Sydney cab licence to drive taxis in Sydney during the busy period. And then in the quiet period, I drove out in the country towns throughout the whole state of New South Wales, as far north as Tweed Heads, as far south as Albury on the Queensland, Victoria-New South Wales border, north to Tweed Heads on the New South Wales-Queensland border, and as far west as Broken Hill on the South Australian Northern Territory border. Right? So, from the New South Wales-Queensland border to Sydney is 1,000 kilometres. From Sydney to Albury is 920 kilometres. And then from Sydney to Bathurst is Broken Hill is 2,000 kilometres. So all those towns, all in the whole state of New South Wales, I've driven a cab in those little tiny towns. Because what I did, I drove my great big motorhome and I parked in the town in the caravan park and I gave the local one-town cabbies, there was only one cab in the town and the guy had no one there to give him a holiday. So I give him a holiday. Now, this is something you're going to have to wrap your brain around. Now, this is what we call I've Been Everywhere Man lyrics by Sal Davidson in February 2018. Now, I'm going to explain a bit of Australian slang to you. All right. With a high and canvas covered load. If you're going to Oodnadatta, mate, with me you can ride. Right. Let's start that again. I've been everywhere. Well, I was humping my bluey. Well, I was humping. Humping means I was having sexual intercourse. My bluey is a blue cattle dog. We call a blue cattle dog a bluey, or a redhead person is called a bluey because the Australian colour flag is red, white and blue. So a bluey is a person with red hair. Then he said, on the dusty, do that again. On the dusty Now, Oodnadatta is in central South Australia. Now, the Garn Railway used to run from Adelaide to Alice Springs through Oodnadatta before they rebuilt the railway line to the east. Now, Oodnadatta, because I'm also a railway guy, and that train there I've been in, that's called the Silver City Comet. I've driven diesel trains, I've driven steam trains when I was 10 years old with my father, and I'm now 61 at the making of this video. Now, Oodnadatta, once they took the railway line away, has now got 3 old locomotive Australian trains sitting out there. It's in the middle of nowhere. I haven't been there because it's under South Australian jurisdiction. My railway Now get this, now you got to listen carefully. I'm the guy that inspects the disused, unused, condemned railway lines throughout the state of New South Wales from top to bottom to the western borders, right? I cover 26 disused railway lines in every single town on those roads, every bridge, every culvert, everything. And I've got to give a safety check, right? You get the idea? So I drive along my bus, I get out, I go and check a wooden railway bridge, and then I go along to the next one. And then it might be a brick culvert, which is a tunnel underneath the train tracks to let the water come down the side of a mountain. Then I'll go down to another one. It might be a railway tunnel, which might be 120 years old. So that's what I do. Right. A semi is what you call a tractor trailer, right? And it had a high and canvas covered load, which means the Pantech on the back, which means it was a flatbed with probably steel bars up the side to hold the loads in, and had a canvas covered load, right? And the load is what's in it. So the load itself was covered with a canvas. And canvas covered load. If you're going to Woodin' data, mate, with me you can ride. So I climbed in the cabin and I settled down inside. He asked me if I'd seen a road with so much dust and sand. I said, listen, mate, I've traveled every road in this here land, 'cause I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Across the deserts bare, man. I've breathed the mountain air, man. I've traveled, I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere. Been to Tullamore, Seymour, Lismore, Malulabar, Nambour, Wichita, Kilmore, Middleborough, Birdsville, Emmerdale, Wallaville. Right, let's back it up. I've been everywhere, man. Across the deserts bare, man. I've breathed the mountain air, man. I've traveled, I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere. Been to Tullamore, Seymour, Lismore. Tullamore, been there. Seymour, Victoria, been there. Lismore, northern New South Wales. Malulabar, Sunshine Coast, Queensland. Nambour, Sunshine Coast, Queensland. Oops, sorry. Hit the wrong button. Right. Malulabar, Sunshine Coast, Queensland. Nambour, Queensland. Maroochydore, Queensland. Kilmore, Queensland. Murwillumbah. Murwillumbah is, you talked about Captain Cook on the Great Barrier Reef. Now, the Great Barrier Reef starts at Byron Bay, where the solar-powered train is, which is also where I did the railway track inspection, and is the only solar-powered train, fully solar-powered, in the world. I am the guy that inspected the train tracks from Murwillumbah to Mullumbimby to Byron Bay to Bangalore, down to Binnaburra, right up into Lismore, back to Casino. Look at that, right? So Murwillumbah, Kilmore, Murwillumbah, been there. Birdsville is out the outback. No, it didn't go to Birdsville. That's actually in Queensland. Emmerdale is New South Wales. Been there. Wallaville, been there. Cunnamulla, that's in Northern Territory. Right. Condamine, been there. Strathpine, been there. Proserpine, Queensland, been there. Ulladulla, down to southern New South Wales, been there. Darwin, capital of Northern Territory, no. Gingin, Queensland to south of Bundaberg, been there. Deniliquin, southern New South Wales, down near the Murray River, been there. Right, Muckabilla, have not been there. Wallumbilla, have been there. Boggabilla, had been there, up the northwest, up there near Noree. Cumbarilla, that's in another state, have not been there. Right. Moree, been there. Taree, been there. Right, Moree's out the northwest of New South Wales. That is directly west of Tenterfield. Taree is on the coast north of Newcastle. Jerilderie is down the south, right down on the Murray River. Bombaroo is way down the south. Toowoomba is in Queensland. Gunnedah is in the northwest of New South Wales. Caringbah is in Sydney metropolitan area. Woolloomooloo is actually right dead smack in the heart of Sydney. Now, you're going to think that's way out in the bush. No, Woolloomooloo means picturesque place by the water. Loo, water, right? And if you want to look up where Woolloomooloo is, Google Sydney Harbour, the Opera House, head east. You'll see Lady Macquarie's Chair. You'll see Woolloomooloo, Garden Island, Potts Point. Potts Point has got King's Cross, and then also around there you've got East Sydney, Darlinghurst, there's Palmer Street. Let's give you a couple of streets just to prove a point. Woolloomooloo, you've got Forbes Street, you've got Burke Street, and you've also got Crown Street, you've got Capel Wharf Road, right? Okay. And that's where the famous Harry Cafes de Wheel come from. Yes, Harry's Cafe de Wheel, very famous pie shop that was started at Woolloomooloo, right down next to Garland Island, where all the American sailors come in there in World War II. Dalveen, that's down the west. Tambourine, that's in Queensland. Engadine is just south of Sydney, just south of Sutherland. Engadine, right? Engadine is down the south of Sydney, just second. You got Sutherland, Loftus, Engadine, then Waterfall, and then it goes down the south coast down to Wollongong, right down all the way down to Eden, right? Jindabyne is down the Snowy Mountains. Lithgow is on my channel, Best Meal in Lithgow, on my YouTube channel, Mr. Hominoid, and you'll see a bowl of rice. Casino, like I said, the casino to Byron Bay Railway Line. Yes, been to casino, stayed at casino, and I've got videos of casino train station. We'll do that. Anyway, that's where the casino to Byron Bay Mooloolah Railway Line is. Now, casino is exactly 804 kilometres from Central Station, number 1 platform by rail, and is 935 kilometres exactly to Mooloolah train station, dead centre of the platform, which means it's 131 kilometres from casino to Mooloolah. I walked the casino to Mooloolah via Byron Bay, Mullumbimby, Bangalore, Binnaburra, and all those other little tiny towns in between. Right, Brigalow, I have not been to that one. Right, Narromine is down the south. It is west of Wagga Wagga. Megalong, that's out the west. Wyong is on the central coast. Puggawong is on the central coast. Wangarella is on the central coast. Morella is and Augathella is not too sure on those words. Brindabella. Now, Brindabella is a very famous town known for the Brindabella mountain ranges, which is where Bigfoot Yowies, like my name is, Mr. Hominoid. A hominoid is a Bigfoot and a Yowie, right? So Brindabella mountain ranges is north of Maitland, which is west of Newcastle, which is north of Sydney. I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Across the desert's bare, man. I've breathed the mountain air, man. I've traveled, I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere. You know, I know that, but if you've been to... Right. Now, here we go here. We've got... let's back that up one little bit. Here it comes. Right. Wollongong. Now, you notice the spelling? It's Wollongong. But we pronounce it Wollongong. Now, Geelong, this is Geelong, not Geelong. It's Geelong, is down on the southern side of Melbourne in Victoria, down on the coast to the west. Kurrajong is up here from where I am, which is directly west of Sydney in the Blue Mountains, which is the bushfire country. And I got my great big house up there. And it's made out of sandstone. And that's about all I'm going to tell you. And that's where I got my racing car that goes around Bathurst Racetrack. Yes, my car that goes around Bathurst Racetrack is a Currajong. Now, Mullumbimby, hello, remember what I just said? Casino, Lismore, Bangalore, Byron Bay, Mullumbimby, right? And then it goes on to Billy Nudgel, Stoker's Siding, right? And then it goes into the Wollumbar. Right, now you're learning. Now, Mittagong is south of Sydney on the main southern line, right? Right, Molong is out the west. Goondiwindi is up the northwest. Grongrong is out the west. Yarra Yarra is in Victoria. Now, I wrote to you in an email, right, Burnindara, which is not me, but Wollongara is where I started the Wollongara Railway Station restaurant. It's now a 4-star restaurant. That's it, Wollongara. Now, Wollongara is on the New South Wales-Queensland border on the New England Highway. Now, when you look at my video, Crazy Driving, that's at Wollongara and Jennings. Now, when you stand on the road and you look at the Wollongara station, you're in New South Wales. As you walk up the ramp on the platform, you'll see a red line goes across the platform on an angle. That is the New South Wales-Queensland border. So, on the southern end of Wollongara train station is New South Wales. Within 10 metres, you're then in Queensland in Wollongara. Right? The border is right on the beginning of the platform at Wollongara Jennings. That is my restaurant, my museum. Turramurra is on the north shore of Sydney. You've got Turramurra, Wahroonga, Watara, and then it goes into Hornsby. Tibooburra is out the west. Narrabri is out the west. Right. I also wrote you an email and I said, Gundagai. Gundagai is the dog on the tucker box, right? The dog on the tucker box is about a World War II guy, went away overseas, fought in the war, and his dog sat on the tucker box. And the day that the soldier died overseas, the dog sensed it, and then the dog died. The same day the soldier died. And then later on when they found out what day the soldier died, they then made a memorial at Gundagai on the Hume Highway, and you'll see a dog sitting on a tucker box. True story. Now also, Gundagai Railway Station is another railway museum I helped create, and in there is stuff I've donated as well as a barbecue, because I gave them a great big brand new barbecue and a roast grill to have to raise money. Now Boggabri is at the west. Golgong is when you go from Sydney, you go west to Lithgow to Wallerawang, which I have a video, and Wallerawang Railway Station is the only railway station, I'm getting off it, but I'm still talking about Golgong. Wallerawang is the only railway station where you can actually sit down and have a coffee and a meal with a fence and a freight train goes past, but no trains with passengers stop there, right? No passengers, right? And then from Golgong, you head north and you go to Mudgee. And then from Mudgee, you go up through a town called Lue, L-U-E, and also Rylstone and Kandos. Now, I done the railway line inspection from Kandos to Rylstone, and I've got the railway line now reopened up to Rylstone. My next stop now is to get the railway line reopened up to Mudgee, and then from Mudgee to Golgong. So there you go. Now, Adelong is not Adelaide in South Australia. Adelong is next door to Gundagai. So if you look on a map, you'll see that's where Adelong is. Right, now Billabong is also the name of a waterhole, but just for the fun of it, you can go and look up Billabong. Now Cabramatta is in the heart of Sydney, It's in the southwestern suburbs, Cabramatta. There's Cabramatta, Carramar, and there's also Bankstown around that area. There's Liverpool, Warwick Farm, and places like that, right? Parramatta is a city west of Sydney. Parramatta City is now getting a tram system put in, which is now connecting up on the old disused railway line that goes from Clyde to Carlingford, and they're going to join the railway line from Parramatta up into Carlingford. Now, Wangaratta is in Victoria. I've been down to there, and I have a friend that lives there at Wangaratta, which is just south over the Victorian border. You go over the border and you go to Wodonga, and then you travel about 100 kilometres south on the Hume Highway, and there's Wangaratta. Now, Coolangatta is the most southern eastern town of Queensland on the coast, which joins up there with Tweed Heads. Now, Tweed Heads is New South Wales and Coolangatta is Queensland. Now, when you drive up to the lookout at the border point, what they call Point Danger, you actually drive up Coolangatta in Queensland. When you get up to the Marker Tower, you turn around and come back down. You drive back down in Tweed Heads. So one side of the two-lane road is Coolangatta, and on the south side, it's New South Wales. It's called Tweed Heads. Google it, go have a look.
Everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Across the desert, man. I've breathed the mountain air, man. I've traveled, I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere. Yeah, but that's fine. But how about...
Okay, Adelong, I've been down to Adelong. Dandenong, I've been to Dandenong. That's down in Victoria. Now, Wollongong. Now, Wollongong is a very famous town. It's up the very far north of New South Wales, where Bigfoots and Yowies, and we call them Yowies, you call them Bigfoots, and they've actually been seen. Now, we have a YouTube channel called Yowie Hunters Australia. Now, if you look at Yowie Hunters Australia, episode 1, there's a lady from Wollongong, and she talks about how this 10-foot thing walks up and eats her apples in her yard at Wollongong. Yes, and there's other videos made around Wollongong where people have been on the side of the road and these things have been standing there in the dark up in this high country mountainous, like Egyptian pyramid type mountain ranges. And these things come up and they look at them and they see the red eyes and yellow and white eyes and blue eyes and green eyes looking at them. Now, Ballarat is in central western Victoria. Canberra is Australia's capital in the ACT. And there's also one there you can see there's a kangaroo being rescued out of Lake Burley Griffin. Now, aren't I clever? I even know the name of a lake in Canberra. Right, Milperra. Milperra is directly east of the town of Liverpool down the southwest of Sydney, which is just down the road from Cabramatta and Carramar. So you've got Cabramatta, Warwick Farm, and then it comes down into Liverpool. And then to the east of that is Milperra. And then from Milperra, it then comes over to George's Hall, and then it cuts over across Heathcote Road and goes back over to the Heathcote, which is then on the Princess Highway, which goes down to Wollongong. Anyway, which then goes down to Unanderra. Now, down at Unanderra, that's on the south coast down there towards Wollongong. Captain's Flat is approximately 100 k's south of Goulburn, south of the Hume Highway, and it used to have a railway line there, and I had to go down there and do that one. Now, Cloncurry, I've been down to Cloncurry as well. River Murray as the River Murray, which is the border between New South Wales and Victoria, and it runs all the way from South Australia in the harbour of South Australia right to the border of New South Wales, Victoria on the east coast. Now, Kurri is north of Sydney, west of Newcastle, Australian Newcastle, not England, and it's out there near towns like Cessnock, Maitland, and a town called Broke, Broke. And the joke is, if you ever go to Broke, you can't borrow any money because everybody out there is broke. Now, Girraween, that's its name, Girraween, is next door to Blacktown, just up the road here from me, which is right next door to Seven Hills and Toongabbie. Now, you say, okay, righto, what's a bit about Girraween? Now, there's 7 hills. So, 7 hills near Girraween, there is Pendle Hill, right? You got to listen to this one. There's Pendle Hill, 7 Hills, Borkham Hills, Castle Hill, and Quakers Hill, which is all part of the First Fleet settlement. So Girraween is near the hills, what they call the hills area of Western Sydney. So when you look at the town of Blacktown, have a look at the town of Blacktown, you'll see Quakers Hill, Kellyville, but there's also Castle Hill, Borkham Hills, Pendle Hill, 7 Hills, right? And you'll see it all, right? That's why it's called the 7 Hills. 7 Hills was the 7th hill to be named. And right at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you something that's absolutely going to shock you. You want to know how far back my Australian heritage go, I will shock you. So then there's Girraween. Terrigal is on the Central Coast. Now, Fingal is up there near the Tweed Heads Coolangatta border, and that is called Fingal Head. Now, Fingal Head had Yowie, had Bigfoot, Matthew Moneymaker, and of course we all know Bobo, right? He was up there, and Bobo done a story at Fingal, right? That's where he went. Now, so I done a story up there at Fingal, and it's an Aboriginal point, and when you stand at the end of Fingal Head, you actually look at the New South Wales and Queensland border, what I talked about, Point Danger, across the Tweed River. You can actually see Fingal. From Fingal, you can actually see the Tweed Heads and Queensland border monument tower sticking up. Now, Stocking Ball is out the west, south of Dubbo. It's out towards the Hay area, and that is out in the middle of, not the outback, but it's mainly a grain growing area, wheat and crops and things like that. Narrabeen is on the northern beaches of New South Wales, where they had the big mudslides and big storms hit the coast. So you've got Narrabeen, you've got Whale Beach, Palm Beach, Collaroy, and Manly. Now, you probably heard of Manly Beach. Well, that's up there near Narrabeen. Bendigo is down there in Victoria. Now, Dorrigo is also in New South Wales. Dorrigo is up in the... Now, this is one I want you to look up, Ian, over there. Dorrigo is up in the mountains west of Coffs Harbour. Now, the railway line used to go from Coffs Harbour to a town called Glenray. Then from Glenray, the train turned left into a set of points and come on the other side of the station, and then it went backwards. Instead of going north, it then went south, then turned west, and went up to a town called Dorrigo, and went up the Dorrigo Ranges. Now, up the top of Dorrigo, there's about 300 steam engines, and yes, 300 steam engines parked up there on a disused railway line at Dorrigo, as well as hundreds of railway carriages, which the local council and the locals don't want, but a guy called Steve and John set it all up about 30 years ago when we had rail disasters down here, and the state government said, we want all these old steam engines off our train tracks, so they sent them up there to Dorrigo. So you can actually look up YouTube Trains to Dorrigo Railway Museum, and you'll see these locomotives towing all these carriages all the way up through the beautiful Dorrigo Ranges. Right? Right. Now, get back to Dorrigo. Where you get to Dorrigo, you got to go through Glenray. Now, you're talking about Australia's biggest prawns and the big ram. Now, the big ram is down at Goulburn, and that scarp around its neck was 150-year anniversary. The big prawn is a Ballina, which is where my son lives, and you also missed out on the Coffs Harbour banana, which is the big banana at Coffs Harbour. So there's a couple there you missed out on. all right? And there's a couple more out at Lachlan in New South Wales and other big towns. Now, Bangalore is directly east of Casino, Lismore. As I said, Bangalore, Byron Bay, and then it goes round to Mullumbimby, and then it goes back up to Moolumbar. Indooroopilly is in Queensland, which is a city suburb of Queensland in Brisbane. Now, Kirribilli is Kirribilli House, where the Australian Prime Minister lives, down underneath the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Yes, so get a look on the Sydney Harbour Bridge on the north side and you'll see Kirribilli. It's a word meaning ocean harbour view. It's an Aboriginal word. Iwrocker is in Brisbane in Queensland. Wallandilly is down southern New South Wales.
Okay, mate, you've been every place except one. You don't need my help to get there.
Right, now just for the fun of it, let's listen to the whole song again.
Well, I was hoping
My Bluey having sex with my dog.
When along came a semi with a high-end canvas-covered load. If you're going to Oodnadatta, mate, with me you can ride. So I climbed in the cabin and I settled down inside. He asked me if I'd seen a road with so much dirt and sand.
It's the desert.
I've
been everywhere, cause I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Cause the desert band, I mean, man. Timberlake, Mount Victoria, yeah, man. Proserpine, been there in North Queensland. Been right up to Mossman, North Queensland. More out the west, Tar in the coast, been all them.
Who's been everywhere, man? I've been everywhere, man. Across the desert's bare, man. I've breathed the mountain air, man. I've traveled, I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere. Yeah, I know that, but if you've been to Wollongong, Geelong, Currajong, Monsoon, Mittagong, Molong, Drong, Gundu, in the area, Boondah, Wonga, Taramara, Bogar, Gandagai, Narrabri, Tubar, Golgong, Netherland, Billabong, Cabramatta, Parramatta, Wongarata, Coolangatta. What's the matter? I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Across the desert's bare, man. I've breathed the mountain air, man. I've traveled, I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere. Yeah, well, that's fine, but how about Long Dan, Long Wooden Bong, Ballarat, Canberra, Mulper, Yundam, Steph, Flat, Clontarry, River, Murray, Curry, Guru, Wind, Terry, Lost, Long, Nibble, Colorado, Narrabeen, Bendigo, Dargo, Bangalore, Winderberry, Kirribilli, Yarrabilli, Wallumbilla. Don't be silly, I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Across the desert's bare, man. I've breathed the mountain air, man. I've traveled, I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere. I've been here, there, everywhere. I've been everywhere.
Now I'm going to show you a video. Aberdeen,